today's review rant is gonna be about the book Cathedrals by Claudia Piñeiro, an Argentinian author, very renowned, and whose books have been translated into several languages. He was actually an English speaker reviewer who recommended this novel, and I was interested. A book written in Spanish originally, it was being recommended by a person who just read the translated version. So man, I can't read the original when I gotta read this thing. And yeah, indeed, the book is, very well written. I was hooked at the beginning by its magnificent prose. Very pretty, very nice. The style of the author evokes the true sentiment of the darkness and heavy topics of the novel. The story goes around the mysterious death of a 13 or 14-year-old girl whose name is Anna, and how this event breaks apart her family, her dad Alfredo, her and her two sisters Leah and Carmen. So at the beginning you might think the book might be some sort of thriller or psychological novel, something to do with the mystery around it, but it's more about the emotions, the mourning, the sadness, the tragedy that these people have to go through. And the book is divided into the different perspectives of several characters. I think in total are 7. The first one is Leah, one of the sisters. And for her, this comes with an existential crisis because her family is extremely Catholic and everything they do depends on how they see religion. And for them, the death of Anna is more of a God's plan, is what the heavens meant to do, and she cannot deal with that like that. This was a monstrosity. She cannot be like, yeah, God wanted it like that, so I just have to move on. That's why she just breaks apart from her family. She doesn't want to talk to them anymore. Even her dad, who she truly loves, and he loves her, and they only talk through letters, but they don't truly talk. They don't truly have a relationship. So it's quite a heavy story, and I was very interested, but I do gotta say I lost interest of this book halfway through. I didn't care for it anymore because suddenly I realized that the most important thing of the book, its main theme and message it wants to spread around, is that how much religious people freaking sucks. How much Catholics especially are manipulative bastards, psychopaths even, and how they will destroy the lives of the poor atheists around them. That's pretty much the message. And there's no really room for doubt. There's not really a conversation or a gray area on this thing. The book is really black and white. Either you are a terrible religious person or a nice, humble, open-minded atheist. That's pretty much what the book is trying to. At least that's how I read it. All the depictions of the book shows it like that. Like if you're a Catholic, in this case, Carmen, one of the sisters, she's Catholic, very Catholic. In the outside, she seems charismatic, nice, friendly, outspoken, sociable, friendly, blah, 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 blah. But in the inside, she's a fucking monster, freaking bitch, man. She is the worst. Again, manipulative. She's willing to go to do the most F up things ever, thinking everything comes from God. That's the way she sees it in the book. You cannot feel anything positive for this character. Leah, on the other hand, is the most open-minded person. She questions the religiosity of the family. She questions the Catholicism of the family, and that's why she ends up leaving. And she's portrayed as the more humble, noble, and the victim of it all. That's how they portray. So either you're a victim, an atheist, or a perpetrator, a Catholic. That was not the only problem of the book for me. It was mainly the characters. I didn't connect or empathize with any of them because they either were monsters, like Carmen, or they were every man in this book, Alfredo, so Anna's dad, the lamest dude ever. He has 0 criteria. He has 0 decision making. He just lets everybody around him just do whatever they want with him. His wife, the Catholic wife, it just controls his life entirely. He has no say on anything. And he keeps quiet. He actually doesn't speak up about his true feelings. his true thoughts. He's a Catholic, but just as a facade, because he doesn't believe in any of that in real life. He's so lame. Also, Carmen's husband, whose name I forget, again, lacks pants. These people need some pair of balls. He has zero criteria. He just lets his wife, in this case Carmen, just control him. He does whatever she tells him to do. He doesn't question her. He doesn't make his own decisions. And then their son, Mateo, another dude who's just pushed and crushed and pulled down by the monster Catholics in this book. All the men in this book are just the lamest, most pathetic people you've ever come across. They're the worst. Or there's Leah, the atheist daughter and the sister of Anna, who is just extremely resentful. She's resentful, quite serious. He's cynical, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't trust anybody. And I feel she never really develops as a character. The way she starts is the way she ends. Like, she starts being resentful and pissed towards religion and religious people, thinking that's the problem. And that's her mentality. She's pretty much being shown she was right. That her thinking was right. She was never wrong. She's just another victim of the situation, of the monsters. And that's it. There's no character development at all in this book. Like, the audience of this book is just people who think alike. So people who hate religion and are gonna be nodding along the entire time in the story, saying, yes, I was right, I knew it. Catholics are the worst. Religion destroys worlds. John Lennon said it. Imagine if there was no heaven. You know, that's pretty much what the book is trying to appeal to, that feeling of the people who agree with that already. There's no question about it. There's not room for doubt or criticism or thinking, maybe not everybody's like that. Maybe it's not as black and white as we're trying to say. No, that's not how the book goes. I compared this novel a little bit with, for example, a Christian movie. I think it's called God Is Not Dead. This book is just to appeal to already Christian people who have that mentality of like, oh, Christians are morally superior than atheists. And if somebody's an atheist, it's because they're resentful towards God. It's not that they are not believers. It's that they have a problem with God in their souls, in their spirituality. And Christians are already peaceful and happy and spiritual and joyful and friendly and blah, 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 blah. And Christians are gonna nod along, say, agree, that's how it is, that's how the world is, that's how my perception of reality sees it, and I agree with that. And the atheists are morally inferior than us. Cathedrals is exactly the same, but the other way around. It's for atheists to nod along, feel morally superior than religious people, feel better about themselves, feel they're the open-minded, evolved people, and Catholics are just monsters that we pretty much need to get rid of, This is just an old-fashioned way of thinking that doesn't go along at all with today's world. That's it. And look, if that's your mentality, you want to write a book about that, great. But I didn't feel, and I can read a book I don't agree with and enjoy it, but I just couldn't enjoy this book because that's the only thing it's trying to tell you. There's no more. As I said, there's not change of the character thinking throughout the novel, at least from my perception. And again, you can have a resentful or bitter character or sarcastic, full of flaws, because characters need flaw, but they need also charisma. They need an element of being interesting, captivating. And to me, none of these characters were. They all were horrible, pitiful, or resentful, obnoxious, entitled. There was nothing you could actually connect with. In fiction, there's plenty of terrible anti-heroes or monsters you can connect with. Patrick Bateman in American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis is a horrible person, but you get surrounded by his world and you get captivated by it and you want to know more. There's like some element of this guy that is interesting, not in appealing or that you can really empathize with, but there's something about it that makes you wonder and want to know more. Or like, I don't know, in TV, Dr. House, morally questionable person, but captivating. Dexter Morgan, a killer, an assassin that you still kind of empathize with or understand. Stuff like that. In many other fiction books, novels, blah, 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 blah. Not to me with this book. I hate them all. All of them were horrible. The Catholics and the atheists were just terrible people I don't wanna meet. Which is funny because we are all surrounded, or at least I was surrounded by both atheists, religious people by different religions. And what I've learned, my experience, my anecdotes have shown me is that doesn't matter. Good people come from different shapes, different beliefs, different thoughts. You can be atheist, you can be religious, and be a good. And the same bad people come from all shapes. So it's not religion what makes you bad. It's that you are a horrible person in your heart, and you use a belief system to manipulate others. It could be religion, it could be capitalism, it could be socialism, it could be science, you can do whatever to use a belief system just to be a fucked up person and be a true villain in the world. But that's not the message of the book. But of course, I'm not gonna come and say this book was terrible or that I hated it, because I didn't. It was the prose and the style, as I said before, was great, and most likely I'm gonna give it another shot too, but with a different book. I'm gonna read something else from Claudia Piñeiro, because she's of course a very respected and a good author, a good writer, you can tell. So I'll give it another chance with another book. I'll most likely, maybe if you agree with her with the subject of the book, most likely you love the novel. It's quite intense. It's alright. There was parts I was bored with because it was from the perspective of characters I just didn't care about. I didn't want to know their life story. I didn't want to know the life story of Mateo, for example, because he wasn't even alive when the horrible crime that happened to this little kid, Anna, occurred. He wasn't there. So it's just a write of how Catholicism destroyed his life. And I was just tired of just listening over and over again to this thing. So, but again, you might enjoy it. The book has mostly positive reviews. I'm the weird one here that is, it's just the way it is. I'm sorry, that's what I felt. I cannot really apologize about it. Maybe you love it. So as I said, it's great style. But I'll give it 3 stars because, and I was disappointed with the ending because I was expecting, like, when the book was actually getting good and all the answers were out and all the pieces were shown, it just abruptly ends. So it was not about like the climax and the confrontation. It was just more about knowing the truth. But I wanted to know more. I wanted to see the characters interact with this truth between them, among them. And it didn't happen. So I left kind of disappointed about that too. But whatever. 3 stars. And behave properly. Keep reading. And bye.